Hello, Karen Locke Culp of We Turned Out Okay, the podcast and the website, here with another parenting how-to video. And today's subject is not a wonderful one, but it is one that's really prominent in the news right now. Today is about how to get help yourself through through if you've been sexually harassed or abused, and also how to help your child through something like this as well. This is really brought on for me by the hashtag Me Too movement. The last day or two, it is Tuesday, so really this started yesterday. Alyssa Milano, of all people, from Who's the Boss, if you ever watched that show when you were small, I think because of the Harvey Weinstein kind of scandal that's been blowing up in Hollywood, he's sort of the most recent older guy who's basically pushed himself on, untold numbers of young, beautiful women. And so Alyssa Milano basically said yesterday, if you ever had this happen to you, just hit hashtag Me Too. Just, post about this, tell your story. And so many people are doing that, like millions and millions of people on Twitter, on Facebook, and elsewhere. And I first heard of it yesterday on on Facebook, when a friend posted Me Too into her Facebook status update. And then, with a little explanation of, like, if you've ever been sexually harassed, assaulted, molested, abused, do this, just do this, say this in your status update. And so I did that as well, because I have been sexually molested and harassed. On the lighter side, I mean, I think like all, women, and some guys too. I don't just mean this isn't just a female topic, although it's very many women, who have had this happen to them more so than men. I've had my butt grabbed, I've been groped, I've had lewd comments said to me. I remember one time at a dear friend's wedding, one of the groomsmen said, he said something like, "Is it all right if I think of you tonight while I'm masturbating?" And that was a really small thing. I'd had much worse things said and done. But at that point I was like, oh my gosh, like, yuck. I think this is the kind of thing that hashtag Me Too is really good for highlighting. And the big thing that happened to me when I was a kid, I was 7 years old and I was molested. It was a one time, it wasn't, thank goodness, it wasn't sort of ongoing. It wasn't a close relative. It was somebody who I didn't see very often. I know I say close relative because a lot of times, not a lot of time, but often people are living in the same house with the person who abuses them as a child, and that's just so horrible. So I am a person, basically one of the things that I thought of was, I am a survivor of sexual abuse, not a victim. I don't think of myself as a victim. And if you've ever had this happen to you, I hope to help you not think of yourself as a victim either, if you still do. Basically, I've got two recommendations today. One for you, if this has happened to you and you're struggling to deal with it, and one for if you're worried about your child. So for you, well, it's the same recommendation for both. So there is an incredible book that you must run, not walk, to Amazon.com for, and that is called The Courage to Heal. Actually, I wonder if you could get it at IndieBound. IndieBound is a place where a lot of authors are really loving, and people who love authors are sharing from IndieBound, because if you buy your book from IndieBound, it's different than buying it from Amazon for the author. So this book is years and years and years old, decades old, but although it keeps coming out in reprints because it's so beloved and valuable. The Courage to Heal is a book that is very big, and you can almost use it as like a class or a workshop. It's got exercises in each chapter to help you survive your abuse, to help you go from a victim's mindset to a survivor's mindset. And it's helpful for somebody who's had something like this happen to them. It's helpful for people who are trying to help others. That's why I recommend it for if your child is going through something like this. Even if you're watching this and you like, usually people who listen to my podcast have young children, kids say under 10. But there are people who listen to my podcast and their grandparents and stuff like that. So I feel like this is useful information for anybody. If you haven't gone through something like this yourself, but you're trying to help someone else, whether it be a friend or a girlfriend or a daughter or a parent. I mean, this is the Courage to Heal gives you a way forward to really, really figure it out, basically. And then I also, in terms of children, I have a way to help if you're worried that your child is going through something like this. Actually, it's not even just sexual abuse. So I did an episode, it's episode 58 of the podcast, and I will link to it in the show notes. It also links to the Courage to Heal. So we got that going for us as well. I will link to it in the show notes, and episode 58 is called something like How to Help When Something is Wrong. And in it, I tell the story of being abused as a 7-year-old child and how my parents observed behavioral changes in me. Like I apparently changed, my personality changed when that happened to me. I was not the same kid. And they noticed that, but they didn't know why. And in a sense, it didn't matter that they didn't know why. They still did the right things to help me. One of them was they got me to a therapist. But not, of course, I mean, none of this happened until years later. It unfolded when I was 20. Well, they got me to a therapist without knowing why. So that was when I was about 18 or 19. I tell the whole story over there. I don't want to, continue to tell it in great detail here, but basically I was abused at 7. When I became sexually active as a late teenager, I started having tremendous anxiety attacks. I would ask to go home from University of Connecticut, where I went to school, and I would ask to sleep in my parents' bed because that was a place I felt safe. And they were like, okay. And what happened was my mom was mentioning this to a friend. She's like, isn't this weird? Karen wants to sleep in our bed with us. Even though I was like 19. And the friend said, oh, I know what that is. She said, don't ask her any questions. Just get her to a therapist. And that therapist helped me continue with my life. I mean, I was really trying to deal with stuff that I couldn't deal with on my own. So if you're observing something in your child that's making you worry, please consider talking to one of, either their pediatrician or a therapist and get them some help, even if they feel like they can't. I didn't feel like I could talk to my folks. I didn't know it was an option. To me, it did not feel like an option at 19 to go back and tell them about this. And if you listen to episode 58, you'll understand a little bit more of why. So anyway, I want to wrap it up. I just wanted to get in here with this hashtag Me Too thing going on. I really am a huge fan of that. I think it's really important to share, and I'm so grateful and thankful for people who are responding to what I'm sharing and for people who are sharing themselves, and that I can be a part of something bigger than myself and maybe be a part of your help and healing. I mean, I love you, and I just want to help. I think as parents, it's a pretty thankless job a lot of the time, and the rewards, such as they are probably far off in the future, a lot of them. And it's making me think of a high school principal who said this to her disadvantaged kids like every day. She said, if no one else has told you that they love you today, will you remember that I love you? And I just took so much from that. I listened to that on the TED Radio Hour. And so that's how I want to end this today. You're a parent. It can be very not a lot of return on investment. In fact, a lot of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't take another minute of this. Well, if no one's told you that they love you today, I love you. And I believe you. If you have had something like this happen, I believe you. And I hope that you can, have some healing and some better times in your life. And that's where I'm going to leave it. All right, for this how-to parenting video, I'm Karen Locke-Culp, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.